It's been a little while since I've last posted one of these videos, so I thought it was about time that I got my camera out and started recording something. In the last week, I've been really considering my impact as an engineer and what effect that I have, not just on the work that I'm doing right now, but also on the companies that I'm working for, the products they bring, and the customer value that they actually end up delivering. And this is a curious phenomenon within engineering, particularly when you're talking about hardware and you're talking about engineering solutions that require mechanical or electronic components. They typically take a long time to manufacture. And before you even get to the manufacturing stage, there's usually a long design process. Depending on the company, depending on the kind of work that you're doing, this could last months to years sometimes. A product that you've worked on may only release years after you've left the company that you're working for. I went through this exact same phenomenon just this week. The first company that I worked for as a graduate after my undergraduate studies was a company called ResMed, which focuses on medical health and respiratory care. And their latest flagship product that just released is something that I remember working on back in 2017 and 2018. Now, that being said, I probably have put maybe 0.0001% of the work involved in bringing that product to where it is now, because thinking about the hundreds of people, from design engineers, from R&D experts to to electronics, to product marketers, to software developers, to manufacturing, to supply chain, and all of these things that go into creating a physical product, I'm probably one of a few thousand people that has maybe laid one little finger on the product as a whole. Yet, when they announced their launch earlier this week, I found myself feeling extremely proud of whatever tiny little bit of impact that I had on bringing that product there. Seeing little features of the product that I remember discussing in a meeting while working in product management there, seeing certain aspects of it that impacted the software work that I'd been doing, bringing all that together and seeing that culminate in this launch of this brand new product really made me proud. And it makes me wonder, what about those few people that I know, people who I've worked under at that time, my managers and my managers' managers, who put their blood, sweat and tears and put years and years of their lives working on the concepts, the designs, the agreements, the problems that led up to building this whole device. Imagine how proud they must feel, because they've been absolutely crucial across a span of years to make that a reality. If I feel even this proud of what I've done for that product, just imagine what they're feeling. I can't help but feel great for those people, because it's just such an amazing thing to see something you worked on in the real world going into customer hands. And it's the first time that I'm experiencing something like this firsthand, because I'm about 4 years into my career as an engineer, and a lot of what I've worked on has been predominantly in the R&D and the design end of the world. So naturally, a lot of it hasn't gone into customer hands. I'm reflecting now on the work I'm doing at my new company. I've been here 4 weeks, and to be honest, I've been reconsidering how I evaluate myself in terms of what value I'm providing and my day-to-day impact, both on the team, on the company, and on the products itself. It's very different to my previous company, which in turn had a very different way of evaluating value to the company I was at before that. So every company you go to as an engineer, you kind of have to redefine how you perceive value. This ties into that idea of imposter syndrome a lot, where I do find a lot of people talking about this now, where they don't think they're having the impact that they want to have, where they don't think they deserve the job they have, they don't think they're good enough for that job. I think what that comes down to, in reality, is a sense of value being provided. Now, at one company, it might be that you're coding every single day and you're putting out, a couple of hundred lines of code, good workable solutions every single day. At another company, you might be doing a lot more logistical work and a lot more interactions between teams to try and unknot some really complicated problems. Now, if you switch from team A to team B there, and suddenly you find that your metric for your life, where you were like, oh, I can produce this many lines of code, I can produce this many software tools every single day, when you go from that to this other mode of working where you're untying problems by interacting with the teams around you, you might not have the same kind of code throughput that you had before. Does that mean that your worse? Does that mean that you're not valuable? You're not adding the same value? You might feel like that because you might have spent the last few years judging your impact based on that alone. So with each job, your metrics for understanding how you're doing has to evolve. And that's something that I'm finding extremely interesting to grapple with at my new workplace. So you have to be able to define the value you provide in terms of what's relevant to your role at the moment. You need to start looking at that picture of, okay, what's this product going to look like when it launches or in its next iteration? What is the impact I want to have had by that point in time? How do the daily activities that I'm doing right now, every day, every few hours, how does that lead up to the impact being delivered? You might surprise yourself in terms of the number of different things that you're doing that actually impact the final product that you may not really realize is impactful. It helps you realign and readjust your expectations of how you perform. And that's how we grow. We find that as we grow through the years, that definition for what is impact keeps changing team to team. It happened when I was on the rotation program at ResMed. Every 6 months you're in a different team. You had to quickly identify what's the value you're providing within that team. And that context changes, so those goals change. That's one of the things that I've benefited from having worked in, even at ResMed, a number of different teams, but then beyond that at Dyson, at Mission Systems, and at Max Kelsen, at different teams, different companies of different sizes, with different MOs. Basically, they operate very differently. They have their own restrictions, they have their own speed, they have their own capability to do particular things at speed. I've personally, in my career so far, benefited from working not just in a number of different companies, but within those companies, in a number of different teams and in a few different roles. That's allowed me to see totally different value being provided by still essentially me as a person in different roles with different responsibilities. And I think that's a powerful tool that I now rely on every time I start a new project or a new job, in really trying to center what value is it that I'm trying to provide. When I figure out what that exact value is that I'm providing within a team, that's what makes me happy to be an engineer every single day. There is a caveat to that, in that not all engineers, even within the same team, even within the same role, have the same value that they provide, because every single person is different. Now, two engineers with the same role, working on the same team, on the same project, they might have very different skill sets. So being able to bank on different sets of skills allows us to bring value together from different people. This is why collaborating extensively with multiple people allows us to push forward interesting technologies and bring to life things that previous generations have only dreamed of. And that is the most exciting thing that we can do as engineers.